Wednesday, December 12th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, the New York Anime Festival 2007.
Let's do this.
Well, for a lot of you new listeners, I know tonight's the night you've been waiting for. We're actually going to talk about that there New York Anime Festival.
And if you're a new listener, you were there. So, I don't know, was it entertaining to hear people talk about a thing that you experienced yourself?
See, I've always found it that way. Listen to, before I, did this, when I listened to other people do, con reports, it was always like, wow, I didn't see that at the con, or man, I missed that.
See, I think also, in addition, if you saw us at the con in some way and you thought we were entertaining maybe, or you're not quite sure that maybe you want to become spend 4 hours of your life every week listening to this, if you were at the con and you listen to us talk about it and you go, and nodding your head in agreement at the things we say, maybe listening is a good idea. And maybe if you listen and you go, what the fuck, you guys are full of shit at all the things we say, maybe listening is a good idea.
Maybe you're better off listening to Anime Pulse.
No, I said maybe listening is a good idea. You didn't even listen to what I said.
Anyway.
All right, so you remember how I had trouble sorting all my musics?
I do, and I remember my advice was always, well, you shouldn't have gotten into this situation. Keep your music in order.
But you offered no useful solution.
Well, I offered one solution, which was delete everything and then torrent.
Yeah, great. Well, I have a new solution.
Delete everything and torrent?
No. The new solution is every day do a few albums. So every day, I'm just going to do a little bit, like in the morning.
So baby steps.
Yeah. And as long as I don't acquire new music, or acquire music at a rate less than the rate at which I sort music, eventually it'll all be done. And basically my strategy is, for example, on the first day, right, which was today, I guess, I went in and I said, all right, what do I want? I said, I want some Daft Punk. So I looked in the Daft Punk folder, which kind of, because it's still semi-sorted, and there wasn't much in there. I mean, there was Daft Punk songs, but not every Daft Punk song. And, I knew there was more. So I went, and I got a bunch of Daft Punk torrents. And I torrented every album. I checked Wikipedia for the discography. And then I sorted them with the Music Brains thingy, which there's a newer, better one that works better. And there I had it. I had a few albums, and I deleted my old stuff. So I'm doing a sort of slow replace. But also,
we'll see how long this keeps up.
But also, in addition to the slow replace, there are also some things I have that are sort of unreplaceable. So those, what I'm thinking is, I'll do the slow replace of all the replaceables, and then all the non-replaceables will be left over, and there won't be all these replaceables in the way, and it'll be much easier to handle those.
Well, then those you can put in the rare directory.
Maybe. But rare usually means, opener to a single anime.
No, I got some weird stuff. I got that random recording of, a Yoko Kanno playing the Escaflowne theme on a piano somewhere.
Yeah, it's like that. What is that? It's just like a bootleg MP3. There's no album or anything to sort it by.
For me, it goes in the Yoko Kanno directory.
I guess. But in addition to that, I'll probably be, finding all sorts of amazing old musics that I've had lying around in my MP3 folders. We'll see if any of those make it anywhere in the show or anything.
But anyway, because no one wants to hear about that, before we get to the, actual
some people want to hear
coverage of the con, all you new listeners, we do news at the beginning. We talk a little bit about what's going on in the anime world. So, Scott, what is going on in the anime world?
What is indeed going on in the anime world? Many, many awesome things. But perhaps the most awesome thing, well, I don't know if it's the most awesome, is there was quite an announcement at the New York Anime Festival. An announcement that was anticipated because, I don't know, you couldn't see it a mile away, but when you looked at the con schedule, there were many panels. There was a Tokyo Pop panel, and a Vertical panel, a Viz panel, whatever. There was also a Del Rey panel. And then there was a Del Rey and Marvel panel. And, well, if that doesn't give everything away...
Yeah, I mean, what? They were just going to have some Del Rey guys and some Marvel guys talk about something together? Just, nothing special?
It's like in just announcing the scheduling of the panel, they sort of gave away. You couldn't really keep the secret of some sort of Del Rey Marvel partnership.
Now, the panel was Sunday, And as many of you who went to the con might have known, Sunday was not our best day.
Sunday was not the best day at
We
all.
did not
We'll talk about that soon enough.
We did not make it to the panel to do our sort of coverage of it.
No, but that's not necessary because Anime News Network covered everything. So we're not really going to talk about much other news from the con unless we have something to add, to the story ourselves.
Well, I have one very important piece of news from the con. Peter Fernandez has a sexy voice.
Oh, yeah.
Good God.
He is like professional radio voice, better than us, ever. But anyway, what they did specifically announce is that they're going to make some mangas with some X-Men's in it.
Uh-huh.
But, mangas in quotes because it's, not made in Japan for a Japanese audience in a Japanese magazine. It's just going to be, published in, digest format in the U.S. as, manga
Now,
we buy in the U.S.
Is it just that it's going to be published in trades, or is it going to be in the, I hate to say something like this, but the quote-unquote marketing speak manga style?
It's going to be in the manga style, the OELs, or the world mangas, or whatever you want to call them. And basically, they're going to make a shoujo X-Men, right? Where it's
so it'll be just like the movies.
well, it's going to be like Kitty Pryde is the only girl in the all boys.
Hey, Kitty Pryde is like the best. All right.
The Kitty Pryde is the only girl in the all boys Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters.
Wait. What about Rogue? What about Jubilee?
Not going to be there. Jean Grey not going to be there. I
Now,
guess.
that I can understand, but
Or at least
Rogue!
not going to be in the school. Maybe they'll be outside the school somewhere. But yeah, and the other one is going to be a Shonen Wolverine, where Wolverine's a badass, cutting people up. Snickety snick.
So won't it just be Lone Wolf and Cub?
I don't know. That's Lone Wolf and Cub, then Wolverine, then Lone Wolf and Cub again. Who knows?
It's just going to be Lone Wolf and Cub, only without the cub.
Who knows? It'll probably be more like a Naruto style.
I mean, it could
where
be him-
Wolverine is using his special techniques, like, oh no, so I can't beat you, Sabretooth. I'll have to use my spinny slashy. Oh no, it's to use the spinny slashy. Oh, you cannot defeat my healing powers. Da, da, da. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
What?
In the past, Marvel has tried this manga thing before, with their Marvel Mangaverse, where they made in American comic style format, but also Marvel Digest format.
Well, I think they've realized one thing, that regardless of the reasons behind it, the fact remains that even average manga outsell pretty much any comic in the U.S. 1 billion to 1.
Well, that's true, but I think the problem here, and it clearly shows the problem, is that these companies, even the manga companies, I guess Vertical understands, but the other companies like Viz and I guess Del Rey and Marvel especially at least, they know that manga is popular, but they still don't understand why. And it's like they see what makes it different, right? Because it's sort of obvious why it's different, but they don't truly know the exact things, the reason why it sells more. They're just like, well, it's different in these ways, and it sells more, so let's make something in those ways. And
Now,
it's like-
granted, this can cause some good effects. I mean, it's not just because they're in trades that they tend to do better. However, I would be a much happier man if I never saw a single issue of any comic ever released ever again.
Right, but they seem to think still that it's the artistic style that what makes these things sell, or the fact that they're right to left that makes them sell. It's people don't buy manga because it's right to left. People would buy manga if it was left to right. It's the thing is because it was originally right to left, they like it to be the original way. It has nothing to do with people aren't going, oh man, I'm buying this manga because it's cool, it's backwards, that's why I'm buying it. That's not how it is. They're also not saying, oh, check it out, it has a stereotypical anime styling, that's why I'm going to buy it. That's not true.
Granted,
either.
at the same time, I think the fact that a lot of, at least the manga that's brought out commonly in the U.S., I mean, there is manga that looks very different, but we don't see a lot of that over here, sadly. But people who saw that in the store, especially, in the early days of manga being brought over, shoujo manga especially, it was just a breath of fresh air compared to big muscly men hitting other big muscly men. I'll hit you, you little guy.
The only reason why manga and anime are popular and what made them popular in the first place is you had people who grew up on animation and comics, right? And they still liked animation and comics and they wanted more, but the only supply of animation and comics was designed to appeal to a very young audience, and people grew out of that, I mean, Rugrats is only funny. Nicktoons could only entertain you until you were such an age until which they stopped being entertaining.
I mean, as to counter that, Doug is always entertaining.
That's
At least
true.
the original Doug.
I didn't say Doug. I said Rugrats.
Yeah, but they're the same kind. They were on the same block.
Right? So things like The Simpsons and The Family Guy and the MTV, animations and whatever, they were working, but not, they didn't, Beavis and Butthead, but they didn't fulfill the desire, and they didn't, didn't have the mass appeal, So the animes came on the Sci-Fi Channel, and people who liked animation but grew out of Nicktoons and whatever said, wow, look at that. It's an animation that appeals to an older audience. To me, that is made for me. That's so awesome.
Now, granted, older audience, I was in 4th grade, and I saw Vampire Hunter D.
That's old. That's about the right.
And my 4th grade brain was saying to myself, wow, that guy just got cut in half.
Yep.
This is awesome.
Yep.
What is this called? Anime?
Yep.
I'm going to watch every anime I find.
All they have to do is cut
people in half.
Just take an intelligent, mature, storyline.
Yes, because Vampire Hunter D was such a deep, mature.
It was with a begin.
Well, compared to any other cartoon kids were watching back then. I mean,
yeah,
G.I. Joe.
Exactly. Have a beginning, a middle, and an end with no crossover bullshit, and publish it in a format that is financially feasible for someone in the target audience to buy. That's all you have to do. All this other stuff that you're doing, like let's make it in this kind of artistic style, make it in this kind of, that's not necessary. That's not the reason this stuff is popular in the first place. But you don't seem to understand that. And I don't know if you ever will.
I mean, at the same time, I did hear that those manga-y looking Spider-Man comics sold a lot better than a lot of other Spider-Man comics.
That's quite possible, but that's also, I think, a lot of those are published in the digest format.
See, I don't know. I think that there might also be just in the culture of people who are reading manga. And I'll say when I see a spandex-wearing muscle man, I really have very much difficulty in seeing any sort of meaningful or interesting plot behind that spandex-covered muscly man.
Yeah, it is harder. There is no doubt, especially if it's drawn in the old style.
I mean, there is the exception. And I say exception because it's there's a couple. I guess there's Watchmen, and there's Frank Miller's Batman, The Dark Knight Returns.
Which you finally read.
Yeah.
We should talk about that next week.
That was the best Superman comic ever.
Yeah, let's read it next. Let's talk about it next week.
All right. God, we haven't talked about anime in how long?
We haven't watched anime
Let's
in how
do
long?
an anime next week, and then the week after that, we're going to talk about Frank Miller.
All right.
Right. So real quick, my news, because, we live in New York City or around New York City. Takashi Murakami, who is known for the super flat style. If you want to know what super flat is, don't fucking ask us.
We have no clue. It's
I
a
know?
word that talks about a kind of style of art.
You know what I know? Anything I've seen that people called super flat was generally pretty cool, and Takashi Murakami seems to be the man who started it all.
Yeah. What is up with lately? People coming up with terms, but the terms not being clearly defined. It's like, yeah, we have this word super flat. It refers to this artistic style. Well, can you categorize it? No, we really can't. It's like back in the olden days, they were like rock and roll, and it was clear what was rock and roll.
Was it? Was it
and what
really?
Was not. Yes, it was.
Because there were, rock and roll evolved from one point to another point, and there's a points where a lot of people would have said that stuff isn't rock and roll and this stuff is, but then people who were born later would say that's all rock and roll, but this new stuff is. At what point is it no longer rock and roll to me?
Yeah.
Whatever. Murakami's awesome. You should check out, any of this stuff, but he has an exhibit, a rather large exhibit, and it is coming to the Brooklyn Museum in New York City in April through July of 2008.
Well, let's go.
We're definitely going to be there. We'll tell you when we're going to be there.
We
when
should
it gets
arrange.
closer.
We should arrange a date and time for all us peoples to go.
I think we'll do something like
Maybe
that.
we'll go to the opening.
Huh.
Yeah. How about that?
But seriously, check out any clips or anything you can find, and if you're in New York City, check this out. I think right now it's at the Museum of Contemporary Art in L.A.
If you're in LA, you should go see it.
Yes, you should.
I don't know if that Tezuka thing is still in San Francisco. My parents saw it. You should go to that.
Did they see it in San Francisco?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There's also the woodblock thing there, which is 10 times better than the Tezuka thing, but, it's not comics. So.
Things of the day. So, I was going through my papers a while ago, and I just found something that was kind of amazing, and I feel like it's my duty as a human being and an anime fan to fill this out and send it in.
All right.
Now, I'll let you all guess what year it's from, but I found a Central Park Media survey that came with some sort of anime that I bought at some point in my life. Now, this survey asks a lot of important questions. For example, what is my age? And I like how they break down these demographics. It's like under 17, 18 to 35, 35 to 50, or over 50.
Wow.
Yeah, they really... Because I think they're forgetting that there's like this 18 to 25-year-old like college kid demographic.
That information is basically useless.
I know. Or annual household income, it maxes out. It's like over 50,000, much less than 50,000.
Alrighty.
But here's where it gets really fun. It's like, what equipment do you have? And it gives me 6 checkboxes. Now, let's see. We'll do this live on the show. VHS, I guess we still have a VCR, though I haven't plugged it in.
Yep.
8mm, we don't have that.
Nope.
Video disc, no, we don't have that.
I guess we technically do. It's VCD they're talking about, right?
I think they're, I don't know.
Or is it Laserdisc?
They're
We don't have
probably talking
Laserdisc.
about Laserdisc.
We don't have Laserdisc.
Satellite dish, nope.
Nope.
Compact disc, I have a compact disc player.
Yep.
Projection TV, no.
Nope.
Now, do we get our anime? Oh, I guess this is only asking about video cassettes. I mean, how many video cassettes do I purchase in a month? How often do I rent video cassettes?
Zero.
And I think my favorite one, how many videos do you purchase in an average year? And it's pretty much 0, more than 10.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, this is like a piece of history. I mean, CPM is almost out of business. They're like a bacteria that turned into a spore and is just desperately waiting for the water to come back.
They confirmed at their panel at the New York Anime Festival that they're sort of in like low-cost mode. Like they're not doing anything. They're just chilling out and, building back up. They're basically... It's sort of like when you put the set you put the tat in Civilization 2. You don't make any war, you stop building anything. You just capitalism and tax and just chill until you get to you get stable so you can go at it again. And that's sort of what they're doing. And that's not a bad plan. At least they're not just going out of business, horribly or whatever, But also they did a funny thing after their panel on Sunday because it was a late Sunday panel. They said anyone with a red bag can go to our booth and take whatever they want.
Now, that's dangerous. That was a trap. I mean...
Especially since you don't want any of that stuff.
I do. My favorite thing was CPM, because they have a lot of licenses or DVD stocks of some old, awful anime. I mean, they're awesome in one sense, because they're not so bad that they're just not watchable, like Odin. But, they're kind of awesome in that they're the kind of thing you can watch with all your friends and enjoy immensely, especially if you're drinking. But
they also have a few good shows, too.
Yeah. But they were selling, it looked like they basically bundled together like 12 of the worst anime they had, and they were selling it as a box set for like $40.
It was the CPM collection.
And the scary thing was, at first I thought, oh man, I'm totally going to buy that. And then I realized that I already own more than half of those DVDs.
No, actually, that box of 12, I think we owned actually none of those.
No, because it had Silent Service in there, which I hear
All
is
right,
actually kind of
we
good.
owned, so we owned one of them.
I think we owned a couple more, too. You forget that I have Grappler Baki and a bunch of that
That wasn't
stuff.
in there, though.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't in that box that I saw.
They might have had more than one box then.
Maybe they just had boxes of 12, but I saw one box of
Man,
12 that only had like one disc we already owned.
They have so few employees. It was someone's job to sit there and decide what DVDs to put in these bundles.
Yeah. Oh, well, CPM, lol. But I
Yeah.
think the cool thing about this survey is, in Japan, when you get, say, Shonen Jump, there's always a survey in the back, or any anthology. And it always asks you, which manga did you like, which one didn't you like, whatever. And you send it in, you could win prizes and get free stuff and whatever. But that's how they know which ones are popular and which ones aren't, is based on those surveys. And they get a high return rate on those surveys, like a ludicrously high return rate. So the early anime industry, I don't know if they copied that from the Japanese manga, companies, the survey thing, but they were doing the survey thing, and now they're not doing the survey thing, and I think they should do the survey thing some more. And
Granted, this survey reeks of like late 80s, early 90s, absolutely incompetent at making a survey that'll be useful.
There should be a modern, competent
Because I remember I used to get these all the
and
time.
And also give me something free for mailing it in.
Back in the day when I'd spend my $35 or $40 on a single VHS tape with 3 or 4 subtitled episodes of a show.
Mm-hmm.
One of these would always be in it. I'd always fill it out and send it back. I don't know why I didn't send this one back.
All right, so we are not the fans of the Moe so much. I mean, I guess this, you can argue about what's moe and what's not, because we like yotsubas and Azumanga and I guess there might be some things you might be able to legitimately call like moe seinen that we would also like, but
I think the line just has to be, there are things that I like and things that I don't like, and labels that can apply to either, because, I like Azumanga Daioh, but I don't like creepy whatever that I saw at the con.
yeah, I mean, generally we use the word moe to apply to, the anime that, things in anime that are there, and the only way you could enjoy them is if you're a pervert who got jollies by looking at cute underage things, right?
But I thought
bad
moe was pure. It's not a sexual attraction. It's just this intimate understanding of the helplessness of this cute thing, and you just want to protect it.
It is, but that's just the excuse to cover up the pedophilism.
I'll bet there's at least a couple of people who actually do just feel that way.
There might be, but that's also kind of scary.
Regardless, I think found Scott an example of when moe can be awesome.
Right, so here's an example of when moe can be not so bad, or at least I don't know if it's moe or not, but it doesn't matter. They have like those moe tans, which are like moe representations of like computer things.
OS-tan!
Yeah, and then they have those other ones that are like representations of like military vehicles.
Mecha Musume!
Right, well, here's one where they did every Pokemon's.
This is so adorable.
Every Pokemon's in the moe styling, but not just in the moe styling, also in the Pokemon styling. And there's a little song, and they say all the names of all the Pokemon.
So far, my favorite one is Diglett.
I don't know, that Gengar was pretty good.
It was.
Yeah, so if you like Pokemon and you like cute, this is where it's at, people.
But enough of all that, because of course you're here to hear about the New York Anime Festival 2007, the first New York Anime Festival. We were guests there. We were there all 3 days.
And do you want to cover this the chronological way or a different way?
I think we should start on, first, shout-outs and highlights, and then, let's talk about the good parts of the con, and then the bad parts of the con. Because
right.
I've noticed that we tend to be very critical about conventions, even ones we love, like Otakon and Katsucon, my favorite two cons.
I think that's because when you go to something like a convention, it's right? No matter how many good things happen, what can you really say about the good things? Like, for example, let's pretend that I go to Convention Y, and Convention Y is an amazing game room and amazing showings. What am I going to say? There was an amazing game room. There were amazing showings. Chirp, chirp.
Not necessarily.
Cricket.
You could go into detail. I think the real problem is that, I think back to my first Otakon, and I cannot think of a single bad thing that happened at it. Everything was awesome.
I can think of some bad things.
No, because anything bad that happened ended up being an awesome story.
Yeah, kind of.
But now I've been to, a bunch of Otakons, like 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Probably 6, I forget. Doesn't matter. Old man, I can't remember. And they kind of all blur together, and I can't remember what. Like, I have to think, all right, that was the Otakon with Laruku, right? So, who was there? Was this guy there? Did we go? What hotel? And I just can't remember.
Yeah, they're totally a blur to me. I don't remember which one was which.
I can't imagine what that guy who wears his armor made out of con badges feels like.
Oh, God, that guy with the beard? I know that.
That guy's kind of awesome.
We should talk to that guy.
We should interview him.
Yeah.
Right. So, highlights of the con. Number 1... we ran, 4 panels at this con, 3 of which were absolutely awesome. And I think the best moment at this con for me, hands down, was, we ran our anime match game like we run at every con, and it pretty much always plays out to
We run at every con recently.
Yeah, to a standing room only crowd, and yelling and screaming and cheering. And
yeah, I'm always surprised because I get the feeling, right, that people, anyone who goes to the anime match game will love it if they're at an anime con. That's a guarantee. But I get the feeling that a lot of people don't really understand the anime match game until they've gone to it. So I'm always amazed that people show up to it right off the bat, like they know beforehand it's going to be good.
Well, the thing is,
when most people don't even know how the match game works.
I have noticed that pretty much throughout con history, if you see any sort of game show, especially where there's any hint that the audience might be able to participate, it's gonna be standing room only at a big con because people they love that stuff.
Yep, especially if it's not competing with anything.
But, we always get celebrity guests. I think the best guest we've ever had until recently, and I think will always be Steve Bennett, because the Stevie B is like the match game king.
Well, he's the best guest at Match Game.
Well, hence the match game king.
Yes, I'm not going to say he's the best guest, period.
The guests we had were in no particular order, except I'm saving the best for last. Jamie McGonigal, who's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was at all, and he was like the first guest that we saw there, and he was pretty cool, and he was very good at playing the match game.
Rachel Lillis, equally awesome.
Also excellent at playing the match game.
Lisa Ortiz, who was a personal hero of mine for a long time.
Also excellent at playing the match game.
She was hilarious and just...
Yeah. In fact, I think she was the best on the panel at playing the match game.
Well, also just the fact that she voice acted in a lot of anime that have a lot of very big dub nostalgia for me. I mean, Slayers, damn.
Yeah. Yep.
And Veronica Taylor, also awesome. She was pretty much right up there.
Yep, she was okay at the match game.
But Corinne Orr and Peter Fernandez.
I know they were going to be at the con, right? And I think they were on they were on a list that was emailed to us, right?
Yes.
And I was kind of worried before the con because if you don't know, these are like the original American voices of like Speed Racer and Trixie.
Corinne Orr also voice acted in Star Blazers, Galaxy Rangers, Ultraman.
Yes, these are awesome old people from way back, and like, oh mans. But I was worried because while these people are awesome and the triple awesome, and I knew that beforehand, on a match game, what are you gonna do? It's like Peter Fernandez, amazing dude. What does he know?
He's not watching Naruto.
He can't name the hottest boy in anime if you ask him to. He'll be like,
Well, the thing is, it's like, oh, you're going to be on my match game. Wow. I kind of just want to shake your hand and get your autograph.
Yeah, I could do without the autographs.
But they were both awesome. Corinne Orr was just hilarious.
Yeah.
And Peter Fernandez has one of the sexiest voices I have ever heard a human being give out in person. Like, Dave Riley on the radio is kind of sexy, but Peter Fernandez in person, goddamn.
Yeah, I mean, like, you hear these radio guys, and they sound like radio guys, on the microphone or whatever, but Peter Fernandez, like, I saw this old man kind of walk in, and I'm like, oh, man, it's the old man. Oh, man's the awesome old man. And I didn't hear him say anything. And then when he finally said something, I was like, holy shit, because he sounded like an amazing radio guy, but he was just sitting right there, and it was kind of crazy. It was like a voice coming out of a thing you didn't expect. I expected, like, an old voice, but it wasn't. It was like who's that guy who does the Rockin' New Year's Eve? Dick Clark?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like that. It was like, whoa.
Plus,
no wonder he was voice acting and such.
I wasn't sure how he would like being on the match game, but he seemed to love it, and the crowd just loved it.
Yeah, even though, him and Corinne weren't so good at match game, mostly because they didn't know about anime.
Well, the thing is, they didn't know about modern animes. They couldn't say, like, name a character in Naruto who's better than Naruto. But at the same time, they were able, fairly consistently, to wow the crowd with various answers that... They did a pretty awesome job.
They did the best job they could with their knowledge, and it was still quite awesome. And yeah, it was a good match game. What can I say?
I think we're pretty much going to run the match game at any con we go to.
We'll
forever.
Keep running the match game until it stops working.
Well, the thing is, right about when it stops working, we have Challenger on Fire coming up. Now we've reworked it.
I don't know if that's going to work.
I think it's going to work great, especially with what we've got lined up for Katsucon.
We'll see.
We're going to have guests who are fully aware of exactly what it takes to be a Challenger on Fire.
That can help a lot.
And also, we've got Fanboy Feud still in the works. We have a bounty about that. We'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
But another highlight, that was the anime match game. Now, we ran the video game match game on Sunday. I would consider that probably the second or third lamest panel we've ever run.
Well, I think I realized my mistake too late in running the video game match.
You see, Saturday, I pretty much ran the anime match game and wrecked my voice as a result because there were 2 microphones between like 8 people.
Gaga.
Everybody was gaga. We didn't even give the contestants microphones. They had to yell. But I had to yell a lot, and I was shot. So I'm like, Scott, do you think you can run the video game match game without written material? And he says, immortal words, yeah, Rim, I can make up stuff for a video game match game. How hard could it be?
In advance, I actually did make up a bunch of stuff in my head, but then when it actually came time to use it, it was all gone.
Yeah, it was kind of lame.
You know
also,
how that happens. Everyone's had that experience.
we didn't line up really
I should have
guests.
written some of it down.
We didn't really line up guests for it, so... And a bunch of our friends decided not to come to the con on Sunday, and honestly, I almost didn't too.
I can't blame them. They made a wise choice, and we'll get to that.
But as a result, it was pretty much Scott, myself, Daryl Surratt, and Dave Riley.
And
Scott,
Daryl Surratt and Dave Riley, we had to like pester them on Saturday in order to get them to come on Sunday.
I had to bribe them with badges to Katsucon. It was like, all you have to do is be in this room relatively sober around 11 a.m., and I will give you a free badge to Katsucon.
And no matter what else we may say about them in the show or in the future, they came through for us because the video game match game, I mean... It was pretty bad, but if they didn't show up, it would have been non-existent.
You know,
and what it was much better because they were there.
What it was something.
Okay, basically this is how it went down, right? First of all, there wasn't so much attendance, which is understandable considering it was Sunday and the attendance was low in general, which we'll talk about again.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, you know, Saturday, all our panels were, like, 2 of our panels were standing room only just about, and one of them was, like, mostly a full room. In this game, there was nothing.
Yep.
It was all our friends and fans and bored people.
So very few people showed up, understandably, and which really doesn't work for a game show. Then only 4 people wanted to be contestants. So we got 2 of them up there. And because there were only 4 of us, I had to host the show and be on the panel at the same time, or else it wouldn't have really worked at all.
Now, how'd you come up with flavor text on the fly?
I had flavor text made up in advance for like 3 questions, and then it flew out of my mind, and I never wrote it down because I was a moron.
Yeah.
But I think my mistake in running the video game match game, and the reason it didn't go, I mean, it could have gone better given our circumstances. It also could have gone worse very, very easily. But I think the reason it didn't go as well as it couldn't, given the circumstances, it could have gone better than it did, but it couldn't have gone great. That was pretty much out of the realm of possibility. But I think it could have been better, and the one mistake I made was this. When I came up with questions, and I guess since I just sort of came up with them naturally and not really thinking too hard about them because I was pressed for time, was that I came up with questions or things to match where my answer had some sort of agenda attached to it, as opposed to coming up with matches that would be humorous or entertaining.
There's a reason, Scott, why when I wrote the match game originally, way back, I spent days and days and days like thinking about what could match, could I coach the guests for this? Will people know that anime? And I've refined it and refined it and refined it, and now I have a database that I'm working on of all the possible match game questions.
Yeah, I still think the problem is a lot of our match game questions don't have the sort of like, blank in the middle of the sentence innuendo that the original TV match game had.
Well, at the same time, you have instead the anime con innuendo, which was very, my favorite question to ask in any match game is always, who is the sexiest man in anime? Because there's always the creepy answer. Someone who shall not be named gave Otori Akio as the answer to that question.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was bad.
But also, someone gave the answer Peter Fernandez. Which is kind of true.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think that the key is if we ever do another video game match game, I'm definitely... I can come up with a lot of questions because I came up with a bunch in advance.
Well, you know what you're going to do?
I'm going to write them down, and none of them are going to have agendas. They're all going to be entertaining answers. Like, I thought of one today while I realized the mistake. You could do something like... which video game character you're most attracted to? And my answer would have been either... what would your answer be?
I don't know.
What video game character are you most attracted to?
Luigi?
I think it's a tie for me between Goombella and...
Scott with the Goombas.
And, what's her name?
Who?
Bombette.
Right. I have a feeling what'll happen is you'll read the questions that I'm going to generate from my database and give to you before the show.
We'll see.
Regardless, while it was kind of meh and we're up there and the crowd went with it, but I forget what question it was, but Dave Riley was sitting next to me and he'd always, we'd show each other our answers.
Oh.
So, one question came up and Dave didn't show me what his answer was. So I'm sitting there and, I give my answer and it goes to him. And he kind of pauses for a minute and he holds his thing up and the crowd looks at it and they're like, huh? And he says, sick semper. And before he can say Tyrannus, my brain is thinking, I've never heard of that. Wait a minute. And right about then is when the clown pistol went off.
I don't know where the hell Dave Riley, a resident of now, I guess, New York, got a clown pistol from. He must have bought it in Pennsylvania and drove it up with him or something.
Maybe the Ninja Consultants, because I heard they had a stockpile.
Oh, did they get a stockpile when they were down in the Atlanta or something? Because we knew that Daryl Surratt didn't have one because...
But Daryl primed us all Friday and Saturday.
Well,
he talked
no,
talked about how the clown pistol thing is dead because you got to be subtle and no one can expect it.
Well, everything he was saying was true. Is that I think at Anime Week in Atlanta, right? I think the Ninja Consultants and some other people attempted to clown pistol him, and they did it in a non-surprising and unsubtle way. Daryl basically said, when I open this door, something crazy is going to happen. He opened it up, and there was like a submachine
But no, don't
clown
you see?
pistol.
That's the brilliance. By telling that story to us and then referencing it again later, he planted in our mind the subtle, unconscious idea that there's no danger of clown pistoling.
No, that was his story did not in any way change my expectation of clown pistoling at all.
Whatever.
My expectation of clown pistoling was at 0 because I thought that the only way a clown pistol could be transported to this convention would be by Daryl Surratt, who lives in Florida where they're available, Surratt, and that the TSA would prevent him from actually successfully transporting one of these things.
See, but I knew that there were stockpiles of clown pistols in the area.
I did not know. I was under the assumption that there was no way to get a clown pistol up here short of driving from Florida.
However, Daryl, very either ingeniously or by accident, basically put me completely at ease. I was like a deer, and I finally decided it was safe to drink. And then, Sic Semper Tyrannis, and Dave Riley shot me with a clown pistol in the face at the New York Anime Festival.
Yep. I don't know what's going to come of this clown pistoling. I feel there has to be some sort of grand finale of clown pistoling at some point, but I'm not exactly sure how it can go down because it's now everyone is always looking out for it. I mean, from now on, I'm never going to assume that. Pretty much, I'm going to assume that if there is a convention and either Dave, Joel, Daryl, Gerald, any one of our anime podcast people is there, even one of them, even if it's me alone at the convention, I'm going to assume I have a clown pistol. I'm going to shoot myself with it. Right? That is how it's going to be, and I'm going to be on the lookout for it at all times, and I'm pretty much locked in and impossible to surprise. So I'm really wondering, how are we going to top this? How's it going to go down? And I have one idea, but I don't know how the idea will play out in the long run. It's going to be, it's such a high production value, I think it's in the realm of impossibility.
Anyway, other highlights from the con, I got to give some shout outs here because out of the blue, like at the last second, Anand from Apple Geeks and Ido from Fallen and Conrad from C Squared just decided, hey, we're driving out to Beacon and coming to the New York Anime Festival.
And that was good because without them there, it would have been much more boring.
It was awesome. They just randomly came out, so we got to totally hang out with them. They spent time at our table chilling. We made fun of things. We forced someone to get their portfolio reviewed by Tokyo Pop, and good times were had by all.
It was quite the good times had by all.
Also, we met a lot of our listeners at the con. I mean, it was kind of surprising when we had our Geeknights Live podcast, and first we asked how many people in the room know what a podcast is, and everyone raises their hand just about. So then, I ask, well, how many of you are Geeknights listeners? And half the room raises their hand. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy stuff right there. But yeah, that was a weird panel. We just kind of rambled on for an hour, and then we were done.
I think it was really good. I mean, the crowd loved it.
Did they? Because I wasn't really looking at them. I was sort of just looking around like I do when I'm podcasting.
See, because I guess I do the same thing I always did at Anime Club, where, I watch the crowd, and all I'm doing is just the body language, and it's the crowd, and they were laughing.
Like during the Gekiga panel, I was all watching the crowd because I was in my panel mode. But when I was doing that panel, I was in my podcast mode.
See, we were all laid back.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Very different modes.
But also, particularly among the people we hung out with, because you were all awesome, I can say with pretty good certainty that to date, I have not met in person a listener of our show who was creepy. You guys are all cool.
I think part of what our show does is it turns away the creepy people,
But there's a bunch of people from the SUNY Purchase Anime Club and the generally SUNY Purchase people out there.
Yeah, check this story out, right? So the Corbin, who's the con chair of Citicon, right, which he invited us to.
That was the first con that ever paid us to be guests.
Right. So he, I think, was on a bus back from Otakon or something like that, and he meets this girl, And she's apparently like the co-president of the SUNY Purchase Anime Club. What a coincidence, two anime club presidents sitting next to each other on like a Greyhound, leaving the biggest anime convention on the East Coast, right? And he starts telling her all about the Geeknights. And she starts listening to the Geeknights. And then she loves the Geeknights. And she's crazy about it. And then she tells all her SUNY Purchase Anime Club friends about the Geeknights. And then it also just so happens the SUNY Purchase Anime Club, from what I can tell, from what these people have said, is an awesome anime club, reminiscent of the RT Anime Club, only smaller in number. And they want us to go there to run some events.
I'm totally all about that. Plus,
the only reason I'm not just doing it right away is time and such.
Well, we should just go out there for like a weekend.
I don't know what we'll do. We'll do something.
Because on one hand,
we have to work it out.
Yeah, but pretty much it seems like SUNY Purchase has this very intense den of geekery, much like RIT. So if you're looking for a geeky school and you can't afford to go to RIT, or you just don't live near Rochester,
you can just be on the other end of New York.
Totally check out SUNY Purchase, because everyone we have met from that school so far has been awesome.
Yeah, and it sounds like they've got the comics and the video games and the board games and the tabletop games and the anime and the whole thing going on.
But seriously, you guys are pretty damn cool.
Yep.
We even invited them to our New Year's party.
Yeah. All right, so let's see what's going down at the convention that didn't involve us, right? So I get there on Friday, right? Because it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm hanging out before the con opens, and I'm talking to the peoples. Hey, what's up? What's up? I meet my Peter Rios and Charlito from, I guess, respectively, the Comic Geek Speak podcast and the Indie Spinner Rack podcast.
When I told them that finally, after all this time, I read Frank Miller's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, one of them shook my hands like, about freaking time.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'm talking to them, I'm showing them around, because they're mostly comic guys, and they came to this sort of like a one-day deal on a whim, so I'm showing them around all the cool stuff, like, yeah, I explained the plot of D and Angel to Charlito, and how it was, twin girls, A and B, and a dude who transforms into an evil art thief at night, and he likes girl A, but girl A likes the evil art thief he transforms into, but the evil art thief likes girl B, who likes the kid before he transforms, and he was like, oh man.
Yeah, don't explain to him Ranma.
No, I didn't explain to them Ranma. That would have been scary. But yeah, I showed them around, taught them about animes and stuff and about Kiyohiko Azuma and whatever. And then I'm talking to Luke, our dealer friend, because I always my thing now at conventions is like, if you're a fan going to a convention, right, you only really see things from one angle. But when you go to a convention, especially a big thing like this, there's so many perspectives and so many different experiences. I mean, there's the experience of the staff, the experience of the volunteer, the experience of the chair, the experience of the fan, the experience of the artist alley, the dealer, the professional ADV guy running panels, or promoting his company or whatever. There's the AV guys who run the panel rooms, the teamsters and the janitors and the people working the hotels and the people giving out the badges. There's so many different people at a convention who have a totally different experience. So I try to go around and talk to all these people to see what it's like for all of them. So the dealer situation at this con basically was this. First, he was complaining to me that, hey, there's no one at this con. And I'm like, the con didn't open yet. He's like, oh. And then he's like, because of the labor union at the convention center, which is true for every convention center, in order for him to get his stuff into the convention center through the loading dock, he would have had to pay these guys to haul it in, and he had to pay by the pound.
It would have cost twice as much as his dealer table cost.
His dealer table booth cost $700. To have those guys haul it in would have cost him $1,500 for the hauling.
Now,
so
the best part is an unnamed friend of ours works with a bunch of other dealers at the con, and they were like, yeah, it's going to cost you X dollars to get all this stuff in. So then he immediately turns to the people he works for and says, I'll do it for Y. And Y was still a lot of money, but it was a lot less than what they wanted from the Javits.
Yep.
So he made a whole bunch of money, and all he had to do was get some friends with cars and haul some stuff to the Javits.
Yeah, you can't go in the loading dock, but you can pull stuff. You can go park across the street from the Javits and bring it in the front door. They can't, that's the way those guys did it. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone must have paid the labor union. Probably people with more stuff, but whatever. So that's the dealer perspective. Also, the con. I realized this, before the con, I had all sorts of speculation about what was going to go down. And I knew that the con was going to be different from other cons because of the situation, but I didn't know exactly how. This is how it was different. Because the con was in New York City, in the Javits, in December, when it's cold, when people are in school, etc., and because New York is very expensive, especially during the holiday season, this is how it went down. On Friday, not so many people. On Saturday, a crazy number of people. And on Sunday, not so many people. You see, the reason for this is no one was going to stay in the expensive hotels. But because it was in New York, in an incredibly central location with a lot of fans around, and it was a big con with lots of promotion and the World Cosplay Summit and all this stuff, you did get a shit ton of Saturday-only badges. A shit ton. And I think I heard numbers like 15,000 plus peoples. But I don't know, it's between 10,000 and 15,000. Something is more accurate. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a lot of people, and it was actually mighty crowded.
Yep, especially on Saturday it was mighty crowded. Friday and Sunday, kind of crowded. The other thing with this con I noticed that I didn't realize until well into the convention was that the con hours were Friday 10 a.m. to like 7 p.m., Saturday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now 5 p.m. is usually later than most cons go on Sunday. Most cons end at like 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. on Sunday. But this con was starting at 10 a.m. and ending at 7. I mean, most cons are like, at least anime cons, are like Friday, crack ass of dawn till 2 a.m. Saturday, crack ass of dawn till 2 a.m.
Well, the thing is,
Katsucon is 24/7 crack ass of dawn
that's
Friday.
because it's a hotel con.
I
Which
know.
is a totally different kind of con.
I know.
You can't even compare them.
But I'm talking about like the hours were so short, right? That was another contributing factor to the one-day passes rather than the, full weekend action.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, it was run more like a trade show exhibition Comic-Con than it was a standard anime con.
There was definitely, there was plenty for fans, but there was definitely a lot more industry stuff there than there was at the usual convention.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I have to say one thing. I realize now the exact difference between a for-profit professional con and a fan-run con. The staff, as in, like, if I need some AV stuff, or I'm going to run a panel and I got to hook up my Marantz to the equipment, or I got to record something, or I have to do a PowerPoint, or I need any sort of service or support, or I have a question, the staff were better than any convention I've ever been to in my life. Good God, if I needed anything.
Well, those AV people at least.
Well, everyone else too. The only problem there in the entire con with the staff seemed to be that it was a little top-heavy, and that the staff were great, unless you needed a high-level decision to be made, in which case there was a very small number of people who could make that decision.
Yeah, also, I'm not sure if because those AV guys, they were quality. They kept talking to us every time we ran something, always checking in, being super
They walked
friendly
by the
and
door
helpful.
like 10 minutes and 5 minutes before the panel ended and signaled 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
They hooked me up with everything I could have possibly asked for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That could just be that, company or whichever, the union of AV guys at the Javits are just high quality. I think, because, who can say that if you hired a different company to do some of the other cons we've been to, that they would be just as helpful,
But everyone else, too. I mean, I went to get my badge, and it was professional. Everything worked. It just worked so differently from a fan convention. I mean, there was no ambiguity about what was going to happen when.
Well, there is one thing, though. The only thing that I personally had a problem with was, while the staff were super helpful, I often had a hard time finding a staff member. And also, it seemed like, at least for us, we were sort of left to our own means a lot. It's like we showed up at the con, I got my badge, right? And I don't know if we were supposed to have guest badges, but we got a professional badge, which I guess is
was like solid gold if we wanted to go anywhere.
Yeah, just as good, I guess. I didn't really care, but I saw people with guest badges, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be a guest. Where'd you get that? But regardless, no one told us anything. Like, I went down, and there was an Artist Alley table with our name on it, so I sat at it, and there was no check-in. No one told us, hey, your panel's at X, your panel's at Y. We just looked at the schedule and went to our panels on our own.
But then again, I have to say, the con kind of self-organized, and it just worked. Like, everyone showed up.
Yeah.
They found their Artist Alley table.
It did self-organize, but it was like, I didn't need direction from the staff, but occasionally I was, like, looking for it, sort of like for a confirmation, like, am I doing it right? And it wasn't there.
I didn't even feel that. I just thought, wow, everyone seems to know what they're doing. I didn't see any problems, and while I didn't see staffers wandering around at the same time, there was almost never a point where I thought, there should be a staffer. I mean, the crowd kept moving. There were never problems anywhere. It's like if the con had happened with zero staff, other than security at the front, I don't think anything would have been different.
Yeah, it was very strange how just everything seemed to sort of go on its own, and like I was looking for like facilitators and they weren't there, but it didn't really matter. Things just
I thought that was
happened.
kind of cool. Also, in terms of panels, there was none of that BS rescheduling that happens at a lot of fan conventions.
Well, I heard that some things were canceled, but there was no rescheduling. At least we had 4 panels, 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, and everything just kind of worked out. They happened at the right times. Nothing rescheduled, nothing canceled, nothing got in the way. People got out of the room when we told them to. It just kind of worked. All right, what else we got to say here?
Yep, well, I mean, we had our Artist Alley table. That was fun. We met a lot of awesome people. I'm sure a lot of you are listening now, but one person in particular, we met this young girl who was cosplaying as a perfect Yotsuba.
Well,
She
as
was
perfect as he can be.
It was perfect. Now, not just because she dressed up like Yotsuba.
Her head was less round, I think.
Well, yeah.
Well, there you
When
go.
I say a perfect Yotsuba, I mean she effectively was Yotsuba. She acted like Yotsuba.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a little bit older than Yotsuba, like Yotsuba when she's grown up. And her dad was one of those awesome geeky dads. And, I'm asking her because she's really cute and she's showing us, like, these are all the sketches I've gotten from artists. And, she's like, she really wants to show it to us. So I'm flipping through it and she got some pretty high caliber artists to draw sketches for her.
Well, I mean, if your dad's taking you to these Comic-Cons, that's going to happen.
And
It's
she's
kind of
like,
hard to avoid.
She's talking about the last San Diego Comic-Con she went to, and how they've been to every Mocha.
She's talking about how she got her friends into Yotsuba and how her friends got her into something else. And she seems
then-
like a little girl who's living the geek lifestyle.
She
up
starts
there.
admonishing her dad for being a closet geek, and then he's explaining to us because she has this tough dragon with her, and it's also green. I think she likes green things and dragon things.
Perhaps.
But she's really smart and really she's talking to us, and I had to talk down less to her than I've had to talk to let's say a lot of people I've worked with in the course of my life.
Oh.
But the coolest thing was that her dad was like, yeah, I'm trying to get her into Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm halfway there. I just got to work on those dungeons.
You got to get some Besem action going on in there.
But then Yuko and Ananth kind of wander back over, and we see them from a distance, and we know that they have seen this cute girl dressed up as Yotsuba, because they stop, and they're like, wow, oh my god, she's so cute. So I kind of point
Yuko
out.
really just could not contain herself.
So I point out to this girl.
And then I facilitated that inability to contain as much as I could. Sort
you
of,
point out, like,
overloading the containment unit, if you will.
You've got that great book of sketches. Well, there's 2 pretty famous artists right over there walking toward the table. So now they couldn't escape the spotlight. And she ended up drawing a sketch of Yotsuba in her book, and it was very high quality.
Oh, super high quality.
The girl was even like, you don't have to ink it. She's like, it's too late. I already started.
Oh, God. Oh, God. All right, what else cool happened at this convention? It wasn't some amazing, life-changing convention. In all honesty, I wish we would have gone just Saturday and not Friday or Sunday.
Well, part of that was just because I didn't have... If I had a hotel room in the city, I would have been much happier staying the whole weekend.
Oh, yeah, of course. But since we didn't, I would have been much happier doing just Saturday. And I think most people realized that and did Saturday only. And if this is a one-day con, it would have been a super amazing, double, triple awesome con. But it was just a normal con. Nothing incredibly bad happened that was like con.
I would say that the con was overall... If you count every con,
It was
in
overall
America,
a positive experience.
I'd say it was
definitely.
above average. Even it was a solid con.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, I point out there were a lot of people there, just from who we talked to and asking, and for those people, it was their first anime con ever. And I guess, totally just making up this number, but I would guess that a good third to half of the people there, it was their first anime con ever.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, being in New York, being what it was.
Well, there aren't any
being-
anime cons up
having
here.
a lot of marketing, outside of the internet. This is the kind of con that would attract a lot of people who had never been to a con before. And it totally worked. And there were plenty of people there, just never been to a con.
I mean, if anything, I would say that the only problems the con had at all, and I find this interesting, one, there was no water. Every fan con ever has pretty much infinite free water everywhere. And they make
every panel room has a water cooler. There's water coolers just around. There's water coolers in all the special rooms.
I was dying of thirst at this con.
Yep. I had to keep going to the water fountain, filling my Nalgene. I got to bring my Nalgene back to work tomorrow. I keep forgetting. But
Yeah, and the only other thing, and it's not really a problem, I just find it interesting, but I guess it's kind of obvious in the end, but no con feedback session panel.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that are just sort of like staples.
No dance.
Yeah, there were things that are staples of the typical fan convention that just didn't happen at this. Maybe, no dance because it ends at 7 p.m.
Granted, I'll admit that I didn't miss the dance because Katsucon is the only con I've ever enjoyed, at least in the last several years, I've enjoyed a con dance at.
Yeah, but regardless, there were things that sort of are default, like you expect them to happen at a con. They didn't happen here, and I don't know if that's just a result of it being, an industry con, pro con, or what. It's hard to tell, like, what differences were because of what, or maybe they were just differences because they felt like it, or they didn't think about it, or who knows. No way to know because we're not that far on the inside of this thing, but that's how it was, and I guess it didn't. It's hard to tell how it would have affected it if it was different. But I guess it didn't matter.
So, yeah, I think it was a success. I imagine they'll have it next year. I'm sure we'll find out, statistics and press stuff. I didn't bother to try and find it out ahead of time. I'm sure they'll just release a press release and we'll talk about it. But if it happens again, I can say that we'll definitely do shows there if they'll have us back.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking we'll do a Saturday only, though. If it happens at least the same time of year, because I definitely think the time of year really contributed to it.
Thing is, I could do a Friday, Saturday, because Friday started out slow, but it really picked up by the end.
I could do a Friday, Saturday, possibly.
I think the thing is I couldn't do Sunday. That was just too much.
Yeah, the Sunday was I was wrecked, and the only reason we went Sunday was because we had an event to do, and because we had stuff sitting there that we had to get.
No, very simply, we gave Dave Riley shit all weekend about the fact that we never ran into him.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, check this out right here. We got to call them out, right? We freaking get free badges for Dave and Joel because they coming from far away, and we want them to come to this con because everyone's going to be there, and Daryl Surratt's coming from Florida or whatever.
I think I talked to them. To all of them combined, total no more than 3 consecutive minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we can get free badges for people, and they talk to us for like 3 minutes. They come to our table 0 times. We see them. We get them to come and help us with our video game match game, which was okay, good for that. Like we told them to.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
and then as soon as that game show was over, poof, disappears. Where the hell did he go?
Meanwhile, the Ninja Consultants are all awesome, giving us golf manga, which was fantastic to read.
Oh, the Kazuo Koike golf manga.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Highly recommended. All I can say is, the people that are training to be golf masters are using golf clubs, and they're playing golf against the champion shot putter who is shot putting the golf ball.
But anyway.
Yes, that is not a joke.
So we gave Dave Riley shit all weekend about the fact that he kept disappearing. So then Saturday night, we're like, all right, Dave, you have to be at the video game match game on Sunday, for the love of God. And then we're home, Saturday night for Sunday morning, and we're saying, wow, want to just bail? And we realized that the amount of shit we would have gotten in return, like, it would have been like everything we had said was nullified and then reflected.
Yep. So we show up, and he shows up, and Dare also shows up. And then as soon as it's over, they're gone. We're like, where the hell they go? It's like we can't, it's weird. It's like online. We can talk to these people a whole bunch, and we're all friendly with them and having conversations. But then whenever we see them at a con, it's like we see them for like 5 minutes. Like at Otakon, right? We saw him, was it Friday night when we were doing that panel?
Well, see, they're not the kind of people who go, show up to Otakon Thursday through Sunday and then go on vacation. They show up like Friday night and leave like Sunday morning.
I know, but it's like they can't even, like we didn't even see them after that. They were there Saturday and we just didn't see them. I don't know what the hell are they just hiding in somewhere secret that we don't know about? That's like the secret Dave and Joel anime convention hiding spot?
I think they just have a short attention span and they can't sit still.
It might be. I have no idea. Apparently, they because their latest podcast or two, it was recorded like at the ADV booth with their ADV friend there.
Ooh.
And that was on Saturday apparently, but I didn't see them behind the ADV booth Saturday. Was that just like when I was sitting at my table not paying attention? Like what was going on there?
Well, you sat at the table not paying attention for most of the con.
I did sit at, there wasn't really that much to do at least for me as a con goer, because I guess if it was your first time anime con, there was plenty for you to do there. But for me, what was I going to do there? I was not really interested in any of the events so much. I had already perused the entire room of dealers and artist alleys and everything.
And we walked around the artist alley and all that. But other than that, I think that's it. I spent most of the con just kind of chilling with all our new friends and a bunch of our listeners and people from the forums.
Yeah, I mean, that for us, that was what there was to do there. Run our events, talk to people, try to talk to as many people as I could. There were cool artists sitting next to us. I made friends with people like the people at the Vertical booth and such, and that was that. So yeah, New York Anime Festival. Recommended at least to go one day at least in the future if it happens again.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.